Righty, welcome everyone to this episode of Stopping the Violence. We have been going on for a couple of years now. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Reverend Zachary Oliver, and I'm the vice president of UPF here in the United States. Um, just a slight introduction of who we are. We're a group that has a major concern, and especially the founder of UPF, Dr. Aksha Moon, which we affectionately call Mother Moon, really felt that we really need to tackle the gun violence in America. It's becoming an epidemic. And as we pursue the gun violence direction, we realize the violence in general is something that needs to be addressed in order to reduce even those who would pick up a gun and harm their fellow brother, sister, or fellow resident and neighbor. And when you start going to the root cause of anything, then you can begin to find some sort of resolute. And so this has been a fascinating, enlightening, and rewarding time that we've had, bringing on several different speakers from different walks of life, different backgrounds, political leaders, law enforcement, religious leaders, social leaders, and several others have come on and given us some extraordinary insights. And we realize that through them, there are some best practices out there that needs to play a critical role even in our national agenda, dealing with violence in America. But we have a person that no stranger to many of our people who are here. We will hear our dear sister, Pamela Johnson. She's been on before, and this is one of her recordings. Pamela Johnson is a community activist and anti-violence advocate in Jersey City, New Jersey. She is the founder of the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County and a co-founder and executive director of New Jersey City Anti-Violence Movement, which addresses the need public safety through various programs and initiatives that focus on preventing violence and improving the quality of life of all residents. She received her master's degree in public administration from St. Peter's University, where she also received a bachelor's degree in social sciences, graduating in cum laude. Impressive. And I think when she speaks, you will hear more of who she really is and what her biography will state, and what her biography through her life will give you some deeper and more insights. So without any further ado, let's bring on the recording of Pamela N. Johnson. We can pass that.
Have Pamela N. Johnson on, and Pamela Johnson is a community activist
We can move.
and an anti-violence advocate in Jersey City, New Jersey. She is the founder of the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County and the co-founder and executive director of Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition Movement, which addresses the needs for public safety through various programs, initiatives that focus on preventing violence and improving the quality of life for the residents. She received her master's degree in public administration in St. Peter's University, where she also received her bachelor's degree in social science, graduating cum laude. Wow, congratulations. Pamela is currently pursuing a second master's degree in communications and public relations at SPU. as a lifetime resident of Jersey City, which is a very important city. Her parents raised her to know the struggles of others and to be able to advocate to those who need it the most. Beautiful. Pamela has spent her career deeply committed to improving the quality of life throughout Jersey City and serving our most vulnerable communities. She believes strongly in investing in the people and leading a progressive movement that focuses on moving communities forward. It is about standing together to do better for the entire community. This is the model for every facet of her life. She believes in it, and God bless you, she lives it. So we want to hear her, our dear sister, as she gives us her synopsis of all that she has been doing through her channel, Anti-Violence Coalition. Welcome, Pamela, for Ms. Johnson for coming on with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Please feel free to call me Pam. I'm happy to be here with you guys today. Thank you, Barry, for the invitation. Thank you, Mr. Oliver, for the warm welcome and, giving that whole beautiful description of who I am and what I represent. So yeah, my name is Pamela Johnson. Lifelong resident of Jersey City, and some other things that was in the short bio. More importantly, I'm a mom, I am a grandmother, and I am simply a resident of Jersey City who wants to see my community improve. And so 8 years ago, myself and some other residents, some who are still working with the coalition to this day, started the Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition movement, which is a community group. We later on created the Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County, which is where our 501c3 is, so we can advocate and make a bigger impact, not just in Jersey City, but throughout Hudson County. Most of the violence in Hudson County is located in concentrated areas in Jersey City. So although we do focus our attention and efforts in areas of Jersey City where violence is concentrated, we still do respond to violence throughout Hudson County to see what we can provide direct victim services for residents who are in trauma and going through just severe, victimization due to gun violence or violence in general. So I guess I can start off like why we decided to jump into this work in the first place back in 2014. We had Detective Santiago was murdered in Walgreens on Communipaw Avenue, and a call went out on social media for a community meeting to address what was happening in our city. It was a very tense time with police. We had other officers from different municipalities policing our area of Jersey City, and it was just a lot of things happening. And so, we Googled, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we Googled, like, is there any anti-violence coalitions in Jersey City or Hudson County? There was no one addressing what was happening in our community. And so we created that community group to address and focus on gun violence and trauma in our city. We started just on the ground talking to the people, wondering, doing, a census and asking, specific questions, why do you think violence exists in your community? What are some of the ills in your community that, people tend to lean towards, doing something that will get them in some type of trouble or, danger. And so, we just started talking to the people in those neighborhoods. And I also want to say that all of us who work for this organization, we're all born and raised in Jersey City, and we all live in Jersey City, in those areas where violence is concentrated. I live on Princeton Avenue, and, although if you're on Princeton Avenue, you'll say this is a beautiful, beautiful street and beautiful area, but if you go 2 blocks up, you might walk into the middle of a gunfight. So, we know what's happening in our city because we live there, and so we actively try to make it better. And so, we got the trust of the community because of our consistency. And today, that's why our work actually works, because, people trust us to do exactly what we say that we're going to do, because we've always done just that. So years later, we talked about, running programming and what we can actually do to help our community. And then we started our programming. We started the violence prevention programming, the conflict resolution programming, the mediation, going into the schools, the Jersey City Public Schools and charter schools and private schools, and talking to the youth so we can get them as young as we could, as a way to prevent things from happening. In so many instances, we're always intervening in conflict, trying to de-escalate conflict. But that's somewhat like a police officer. Police are called, after something has happened, while something is happening. In order to really be effective in our work, we wanted to be there before it happened. We wanted to prevent it from happening, because when we get those calls, because gunshots are already firing, somebody's shot, or somebody's traumatized from what just happened. So, the bulk of our work is prevention. And, we just began to take off and do that magical work that was changing people's lives. And we've been doing that work now for 8 years. And part of going in the schools or in, churches or in community organizations and in their meetings and, activating ourselves, we go into the homes, we go into the housing complexes, we go where that violence is concentrated directly on those corners, on those hot spots. We have an initiative called Occupy the Corners, and that's been around for 8 years. And we go directly to those areas where violence is concentrated. For instance, if you know a little bit about Jersey City and you did a little research, and those areas are like Wilkerson Avenue, Curry's Woods, Ruckards Avenue, Bidwell Avenue, Booker T Housing Complex, Marion Housing Complex. It's a housing complex called the New Houses. So, there are about 16 areas in Jersey City where this violence is concentrated. Some of those blocks only have one block in between them. So that's how close the violence is, and the groups who are going back and forth with each other. They're very close to each other. They don't live on the opposite side of town. They live in an area where they can literally walk around a corner and see somebody who wants to hurt them. Another program that we recently started was a building trades program. So we always said, going back 8 years ago, that if we had the opportunity to truly change someone's life, how will we do that? What kind of opportunity does that look like? And, as we did work for many years, a job is an opportunity. When you're talking to a lot of the youth and young adults on the corners, they're missing out on an opportunity. They think that, they're disenfranchised from their community. They're not getting the resources they need from their community, and some not in their households because of various reasons. And so, we started the building trades program. We offer free OSHA training. Then they go into a carpentry module, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, and they learn all about that, and they're certified when they leave us, and then we get them a job, after that takes place. So these are just things that we do to combat violence and decrease the number of residents who it affects, so that people can go on and live a happy and healthy life. I mean, I could go on, but I want to make sure I'm giving you exactly what you need. So if anybody have any questions.
Yeah, I want to thank you for, you can go on a couple more minutes. You said a mouthful in such a short time, guy.
Yeah, this is like, we do this work every day. We also have another program where we meet victims at the bedside. That work is funded by the Victim of Crime Act funding, which is federal dollars. And so we have a partnership with the Jersey City Medical Center that, when they receive gunshot wound victims in the medical center, that we're contacted, and once they're stabilized, we meet them at the bedside and begin to conduct an intake assessment and enroll them in our program, because what we're seeing is a lot of recidivism when it comes to gunshot wound victims. You're seeing the same victims from the same locations with similar injuries, and who needs some guidance and some help. And sometimes that help came in the form of relocation. Some folks have to leave Jersey City, depending on how deep you're involved in what's happening on the street. For your safety, you need to relocate yourself, and we help with that as well. If victims are shot, traumatized, and are missing out on work, we complete their applications for the victim of crime compensation, and we assist them in getting wages and salaries paid for that time that they're out of work, to get therapy and trauma recovery from the TRC if you need some type of counseling. I mentioned the relocation. We also assist with gift cards, ShopRite gift cards, to help our victims and our clients who are experiencing food insecurities. If folks are having issues with slum landlords, we get with the city and the county and make sure that we're addressing their needs with housing. The list goes on and on. We have a lot of programs underneath the coalition. And we do a lot of referrals, and not a referral where we give our clients a piece of paper and send them somewhere, but a referral to where we're contacting, that referral source and, walking our clients through that. So they're not victimized or further victimized by the system, because that's exactly what happens sometimes. Folks call agencies and organizations for help, and instead of getting help, they get the runaround, which kind of defeats a person, and then they just hang up and don't call back, and they never receive the help they need to, live a better life. I do see a question in the chat. Are you federally funded? Do you apply for grants? Yes. So right now we have a federal grant and we have a state grant, and we just found out we are the new recipient of the city grant for violence intervention, which is the first grant that the city has ever put into play to address this. And then we also work off of donations as well. Our grants, I think we got our first big grant 3 years ago, so we've been around 8 years. And although the grant money definitely helps us pay staff and further service the clients, but even when we had to do this work voluntarily, we were still doing our thing. So we're happy to be funded, but definitely we would do it even if we wasn't. But the funding does help.
All right, thank you, Christine. Can you stop there? Thank you so much. I'd like to open up the floor. I will reiterate what I said to her. She said a mouthful in such a short time, but I would like to, I think we've heard her before. I like her because she has categorized. I think she went to prevention, intervention, and all other types of care that are needed for dealing with violence and dealing with individuals, and the care from just being there for victims in the hospital, knowing that many times people do make concerted efforts to try to change the trajectory of their life, but still, as she said, gets runarounds because she's like they're not getting the proper response and timely manner, and several other things that she shared with us. So I just want to open up the floor as we speak. We can take down the video. I think that's it. Thank you, Christine. Today we have Christine, EJ's wife, because he has something else to do. So she's sitting in for her husband. Amen. Wow. Great husband and wife duo. Can we take that down, Christine, the video? And then let's just open up the floor for any questions, any statements, any comments, any insights that you were getting. Now, before I even do that, November, after the elections, around November 12th, I believe, 15th to 17th, or 16th to 17th, we're going to have our Stop the Violence conference. I spoke with Dr. Jenkins, and he mentioned, it might be good to do it after the presidential elections. So we will do that. And the topic of that will be, and I think this is, the name is in concert with what we just heard. And that is Stopping the Violence, Unfolding Best Practices. And so we're listening to some of these best practices that many of us had no idea that these things were going on in different communities, and people were putting their heartfelt efforts, time, and sacrifice to be a catalyst for the change in their community, that I'm quite sure, even with our best practices, you see some sustainability to a certain degree, and you can probably measure those results from the different speakers. And Pam is one of our first speakers who have come on and shared these incredible insights and incredible projects that she has initiated with other concerned people in her community. The floor is open. Anyone like to make some comments? Love to hear from you. Yes. Is that Reverend Franklin? Sure. Welcome.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Reverend Oliver. Yeah, so many things. Oh my God. I never get tired of hearing this wonderful lady, Pamela, and all the work that she's doing. And I'm glad I got this tape because um um I was in the Uber and I had met a guy from Jersey City and I could not remember her name. And I was telling this Uber driver about this, about Pamela. And so well, I'm glad I got it. I got his phone number, and I'm going to do my best to try to, connect him with her. And but it's one. I'm reminded of so many things because I remember Dr. Rouse said um, that we need, in order to create the pathway to healing in the areas of violence, we need the clergy, we need the military, and also he said another entity as well, clergy, military, and I forgot the other um, uh, uh, part that he said that would play an instrumental role towards going towards that path of healing. Um, but yeah, we really need the clergy to be involved in this situation because, and then also this lady, I hope that she would be part of that dialogue and that conversation when you had that national conference, Reverend Oliver, I believe, to stop the gun violence program. And I hope that she could be part of that conversation. And because um, these are people, she represents people who are actually doing the work, and it just goes to show that what she did basic things. She went out and asked the people, what are the concerns that the people have? What ideas do the people believe that can result towards creating the pathway of healing and resolving all these conflicts? Um, and and we cannot emphasize the role of God in order that we can have a faithful heart when we approach people who are of concern so we can talk and have real adult conversations. Because even though I had registered as being involved in a Republican Party, I don't consider myself a Republican. I consider myself as a conservative because both sides have equal equal perspectives that they can bring to the table. And so the whole reason for me saying all that is that when we are able to put God into that conversation, we can respect each other's insights, each other's perspectives. But if there is this force that is working to promote an idea and we are becoming overly attached, if we become overly emotionally attached to a certain idea, within that does not leave any room for us to be open to other people's perspectives. That is the spiritual element that is going to help us to become motivated towards helping us to get to the real cause that is going to lead towards us creating long-term solutions to this situation. And there's trauma involved, and we need to talk about that. There's so many things that she underscored. It's not just one thing. is many, many things that needs to be focused and targeted in order that we can create long-lasting healing. And this needs to be her program, as well as the other guests that you had, need to come together and to create our own coalition, um, because we cannot no longer rely on the government to do the work. This is something that has to come from the people themselves. And so those are some things in which that, that surfaces up, as she speaks.
Mm, so very true. Thank you. Actually, when I initiated the thought of having a conference way back, didn't really have a set date or anything, but she was the first to respond that she wanted to be on like the committee
Right.
organizing it. So she'll definitely be there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for your comments.
Oh,
Uh,
you're very welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Madeline?
Yes, greetings, everyone. Greetings, all. Thank you, Reverend Oliver, again for continuing this journey, and thank you, Reverend Daryl, for your comments. And it's all, as we say, it's all coming together because we've had so many people on this call from so many different uh, places, and that brings so much to the table. But I'm going to piggyback off of what Daryl said a little bit, because as he was speaking, I was thinking about the holistic approach. She talked about food, she talked about shelter, she talked about, a safe place. She talked about those elements that are the basic needs of human nature. And I really appreciate that. When she talked about meeting people at their bedside, I was watching a program yesterday. I think it was ABC World News, but it wasn't David Muir. And they were talking about Philadelphia. They said it's 43,000 people were killed last year by guns. And they're working to do something about it. But I heard a word in reference to trauma. So, Daryl, you're absolutely right. And that's maybe part of clergy's responsibility to help people deal with their trauma. They called it an anti-participatory trauma. And what it does, it sends shocks to the nerve system when people have to go back into these communities and live where this violence have been set up on them. So when I think about that, we talk about triggers. And once you go through that process, whether you're gang involved, whether you're sitting on your porch, whether you were in your house and someone shot through the window, all of that triggers the nervous system every time you have to go back into the community. We hear things on the news, and I'm beginning to think, okay, things happen, but is it really good to continue to play it over and over and over? Because you're sending people back into that same place. So, with God on our side and being able to connect with people spiritually and have them to actually get to a place where they're relying on God, where they're building a support system. And it's easy to say, well, move out of the area. It's easy to say, but it's not easily done. You know what I mean? So how can we be in the position to help people to transform, to deal with the conflict or the trauma that they've encountered, and help them to move forward, not only spiritually, but physically and emotionally and psychologically. And that takes work. It takes a lot of work. You know what I mean? To even have the person that the offender, the one that actually committed a crime. You know what I mean? When a person when one person kills another person, we think about the family that has the loss, but there's also some suffering with that family, with the person that is the offender. So how do we bring about a balance? And Reverend Daryl, as you said, that's going to take clergy. It's going to take, and not only clergy, it's going to take the community to come to a place to say, let's really stop the violence. Let's see what's going on in our neighborhood. and see what the needs are, and let us all come together collectively. Back in the day, we used to say it take a village to raise a child, and when children are having children, you might be 30 and your child might be 15, but you still have that inner child that you haven't, really dealt with, those type things. So you're absolutely right. It's going to take a conversation from all of those different perspectives, be it spiritually, be it emotionally, be it violently, be it, psychologically. It's going to take all of those entities to come together and really see what the best practices are. We talk about Mother Moon. Mother Moon says, peace start with me. Peace starts with me. So if I'm in internal conflict all the time, I'm not going to be help to anyone else because I'm battling my own demons. So to be able to put a person in a position to deal with what's going on with them internally, it's one thing to deal with something internally, and then you have the external forces, because we know that this is a spiritual warfare. We know exactly what we're in, but to be able to connect spiritually and allow people to search inside to see what that is internally, to help them deal with that, to have love and compassion. And Daryl, you said it very well, respect for one another. And until we come back to that place, we'll always be in this place. But I want to say that there is some good going on in this world, because I was with my daughter when she dropped her son off at West Virginia University over the weekend. And I mean, them kids was coming in there and they was happy about being in there. My grandson is a freshman, but we were introduced to sophomores. We were introduced to seniors, so there's a gambit of good that is going on in the world. And those are the things that we don't talk about. But once we start speaking more positive than negative, then our frequency, our vibration will begin to rise, and it will get better.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that mouthful. Wow. You too. Incredible, both of you. One of the things that, and then we're going to have Reverend Mama Joy. Good to see her. I want to have her in 1 second. One of the things that Daryl did talk about that ran across my mind, and that was the path towards healing. You don't hear that. See, if you deal with what is the path toward healing, then as you said, Dr. Alexander, you have to, people would be more, more led toward holistic approaches. You see, but the question remains, is there any real concerted efforts to the path, as Reverend Franklin said, toward healing? You see, that takes on a whole nother paradigm when you start talking from there. And all of the great things that you said, and the last thing you said too, is that 1%. And I look at our stats. Someone said last week, 74% of our children, especially in the African American community, that I think it was the brother last week, and he's 74% live in a single parent home of the African American community, and that's an epidemic. It's that's a crisis, you see. But I say the 26% we need to tackle. We need to address. Because that 26%, if they were addressed and if they were highlighted, they can play a critical role in changing the other negative trajectories that are going on, right?
Absolutely.
There's no alternative voice out there. Mama Reverend Joy, welcome.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful grand rising to all. I'm Reverend Mama Joy. I'm from the city of Chi-Town, Chicago. And I know some of the faces, but I would like to just congratulate Mr. Pam for such an outstanding hard work not hard work, but hard work. I really appreciate her just expounding on what all she does and how she's touched in so many areas. One of the things that impressed me is that she's with a group of people who didn't leave the community.
Mm.
And that is one of the issues. Most people will leave and not take a stand on their territory and do that work. Because we have many organizations that are coming into our community, taking all kinds of data, but they don't do any work. They just come in, tell us what the crises are, and you're not even aware that they're even there. But then later on, you'll see that they've made tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a study of us and not work with us. So I'm really impressed with the ability for these young women, or whoever the group is. I see her as a young woman standing strong in a volatile situation, in the trenches, and making something happen. I would like to ask her if the churches, because this is one of the critical components that I have challenges with, but it's getting a little better now since there are younger pastors coming in to the community. The churches did not want to get together. We couldn't unify the churches. And I couldn't understand what we don't work with them. We don't work with them. I don't understand. I thought we were all in the same in the same business. You're not saving souls. You can't save a soul if you can't save the life, right? So they would have these, and I would have to go through all kind of changes trying to unify the church, which was most of the time I just couldn't do all of that. So I really understand the work. I don't know how many people Pam have with her, but that's a yeoman job. And you can only do that through love. You can only do that kind of work through love. You can not even sustain it without love. And though there's no mentioning of any religion or whatever, I think I will join an agreement with Dr. Alexander. This is a spiritual work, and you can identify God in the work and pray and work together and unify people, just being able to validate the divine covering that is on them in order to do this work. Because Jesus says this, he says, you'll know them by their fruits. And so I just love that. I want to also ask her, Pam, about these safe places that she finds for these young repeated victims, because that's another thing. You take them out of well, let me say this first. Once a person gets accustomed to a certain behavior, they have to be regrouped. They have to be restored. They have to be worked on. What was that word?
Recalibrated.
Yes, that instrument, that brain has to be recalibrated. Yeah, yes, indeed. Recalibrated in order that those vibrations, excellent, thank you, Brother Oliver, so that when they go, they will not send those same vibrations and attract that same mentality to them, okay? Because they're not even aware of it. So even when you send them to a safe place, many times they'll go out and find themselves in the same situation again. I'd like to know how successful they are with that, and how did they create these safe places, because that is really a crucial thing. So I agree with Reverend Alexander. There's a lot of good that's going on, and we should amplify our sounds on that and make that known, as well as keep our people informed as to what is going on, so that they'll know that whatever skills or whatever ministry that they've been called to do, that they will see that there is a definite need for them. So I'm going to move on with that. Thank you for the opportunity to join with you all today. But I'd like to hear her words as to how she creates, or how her group is in preparing, making connections, both community and internally in the community as well as outside? And how far has she allowed or any of her victims, to what degree, what's the distance, and what reports she's gotten about their successes? I hope I'm clear.
Thank you so much, Mama. Reverend Mama Joy, you did a stalwart job. So good to see you here. Absolutely. Yeah, I saw you there, and I knew that you had something to say. I was waiting for it. And you're right. I think, I'm sorry that this is a recording, but we can address, I can send you her video because it looks like it's real, right? Yeah, but I can send you her the video of it. And she's come on twice. And I think she did form some partnerships. If we go on into the video, form some partnerships with some local churches and community, But I think you asked some very pertinent questions, and I think she kind of addressed that. And I will send you in subsequent, right?
She did, and that to me, Brother Oliver, is so crucial.
Yeah.
Because many times these children only know where they live. They live where the school is, they shop, they just live there. They don't go anyplace else. And so they're very limited in their environmental expansions. And so how does she relocate them? Because sometimes it may even be necessary to relocate the whole family.
I was thinking, you're right. One thing, and let me sidebar what you said. They don't like, I grew up in New York, right? New York City. And where I grew up and where one of my friends lived, back in the day, he really lived in the war zone area. And from where I lived, they can see Manhattan, the skyline from that part of Queens. And you ask them, have you ever been over there? They live a whole lifetime and never been over.
Never been over. That's right.
Those buildings. So that struck me when you said that. But one of the things I thought about, which would be a good question, research, and I will address that with her too. You're saying going back, and I understand, because that's all they know, they go back. We have one speaker who said one who could, his life was in danger, but he just thought he can go back and he lost his life, right?
Yeah.
Then you have, I think, Dr. Alexander, you mentioned trauma, right? People are traumatized even stepping back into the community. They're out shopping somewhere else in different community. They might feel a semblance of safety or feel comfortable, but you start panicking when you have to get on the train or the bus and get off the neighborhood and walk through the mob. You know what I mean? Walk through those people. It's a traumatic experience. So how many go back, and how many the trauma was so severe that they won't never go back, even though it's very difficult? That's a good, when you were talking, I was saying, well, what would be those particular percentages?
Not even return back to school either. There's so many, because I work at a high school and we served 7 projects. Wow. 7 projects. And so we had confusion going on all the time. And these situations are really real. They're very, very real. It's very combative. And it was nothing. In fact, one of the reasons why there's so much crime in Chicago now is because of the dismantling almost simultaneously with maybe 10 projects, huge projects in Chicago. Where are all these Black people going to go? Where are all of these gangs that have lived for decades put their territory? They were just flopped into the South Side. And this is where the chaos is occurring, because they're not accustomed. Their life has been in high risers. They've never had to have, just a single lane of working with neighbors, no relationship with neighbors. And many of them have not returned back to school because they fear going to school, right, because of these situations. So it's a need for study. I don't mean to hound it, but I'm excited about this. Thank you. God
Yeah,
bless.
thank you. I appreciate your statement. Uh, anybody else on? Oh, I see. My dear sister Catherine Duncan Reed, Mrs. Reed on there as well. Oh, somebody have their hand up.
Yeah, Dr.
Bruce
Bruce.
Suture.
It's Bruce Suture.
Yeah, Bruce. Welcome, Bruce. Good to see you.
You want me to go or you want to wait for Kathleen?
I know you can go and then Catherine, because I see your hand up.
Okay, Mom and Joy are a team with me. We preached together in South Korea at the biggest church in South Korea. And I agree with everything she said. But she's dealing with the symptoms rather than the cause. And for me, when I taught in the inner city, I had 30 students, of which one had both birth parents. And he was by far the smartest kid in my class. And so I don't have the answer. I don't know how to do it. But I think the number one way to stop violence in Chicago or anywhere is to focus on the two-parent family. And I think that how many of the gangbangers that killed people, I would ask the question, how many of them had both parents at home? And I doubt we'd come up with very many. So that, again, I don't know how to do it. I wish I did. But I think the city and the country and the nation and the world, we all have to focus on how can we support the two-parent family. You know, when the woman gets pregnant out of wedlock, and we know what the Bible says about that, when she gets pregnant out of wedlock, and then the next step is that the welfare system tells them to live separately, you'll get more money, rather than get married and have the husband move in with the wife. So somehow we have to figure out, and I think we as Christians, you know, responsible, committed Christians have to help come up with the answer of how can we support from this moment on the two-parent family. Thank you.
I agree with you, and I'm gonna get down. One of the things I think we have to look at the whole picture of what is the root cause of some of these issues. You know, I was just rereading something yesterday, and Planned Parenthood is one of the central abortion clinics in all minority communities, and especially the Black community. You know, people are promoting we can do anything with our bodies. So you're compounding with some dysfunctions, as you said, of individuals. With now you're encouraging, you're pacifying. That's okay, you know, that kind of thing. But actually, people have to realize too that the founder of Planned Parenthood is a lady called Margaret Sanger. And Margaret Sanger started it because she felt that the African Americans were dregs of the earth. And the best way to curb them and to stop the population is to encourage them to have abortions. You see, so I understand that people have issues and situations that come up about with abortion. I'm not going there because I'm not political, but also it seems like there was something also, just can't win for losing, you know. So Planned Parenthood was started by and founded by a woman who had no regards or no respect for minorities. Donna Avey, God bless you. Welcome.
Thank you. When Dr. Suture was talking about his experiences, and the importance of the two-parent family, I was reminded that recently I have a son who graduated here with a doctorate in Indigenous people clinical psychology, and works with what is called South Central Foundation, which is one of the largest corporations of our Alaska Native communities. And he was in Anyway, he was a researcher and now he's a statistician. He makes reports and he helped introduce to that community how important it was not to just research and create data around the broken families and the need to reintegrate the families, but also how to help prevent the brokenness. So he introduced premarital and other program ideas to that council that have been brought up and will be studied also. So I think Dr. Suter was saying we have to go to the root cause, but also we have to create the data around the improvements made by addressing the root causes. Like all the programs that we've heard about through this forum on Wednesdays, I believe what data can be generated around how effective they were and what the model means to the greater US and the greater world population, because I'm a member of Women's Federation for World Peace too. And I constantly ask myself, what if we had more information about how to do this differently?
I agree with you. And I think this is, we don't do enough data. I think Dr. Alexander addressed it as well. We don't do enough data on what's positive. You see, everybody knows it's transcendent of anybody, any culture, any race. If you speak something over and over, it becomes a subliminal type of impact on people's behavior and thought processes, right? So if you're constantly bombarded about this negative, and then it becomes the norm, it's the norm. I always remember, I will say this, it's funny how one thing that word verbatim I read in my psych course when I was 19, and I don't know why I never forget it. And that was, what was the definition of norms? And the book said very simply, what's prevailing, right? So I said, well, even as a kid, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. For some reason, there's a loophole somewhere in that, So, and it stuck with me. And then the more and more I started to study, the more and more I experienced life, I realized that it didn't make any sense. We have to determine what's prevailing to what is right and what is wrong. So again, and I'm going to get to you, Catherine, because we're going to go over 3 o'clock. We started a little late. Okay. So I'm going to get to you. So yes, I agree with you. I think our dear beloved sister, Dr. Alexander talked about what's positive. Are we focusing on the data of those positive impact of young people who are out there coming probably from the same communities, ABC. So I agree with you. Thank you so much, because we need to do that and really look at some of the issues and make some comparison, but also look at last point, Catherine, look at what also stick with me is we used to watch the news. My family, I come from a two-parent home, right? So we used to watch the news, and they used to give the stats about Black America or the minority communities, and that they don't grow up, they don't have the fathers in the house, and they would give the percentage. And my father used to always say, if the news became responsible and began to do several documentaries about the 50% of these minorities that do have fathers in the house, you would see a phenomenal change in the community.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
And that's what we need to begin to really look at. Why are they not doing that? Why are they focusing on just the negative impact and the kids are watching? My dear sister, Catherine, and you can anybody can chime in again, Dr. Alexander.
I was so late getting here. It's my birthday today, so I
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
For breakfast or with my pancakes. So you have to forgive anything that might rattle out of my mouth today. But I think I still got my wits about me. And I'm just so grateful that you would have me address your audience, Reverend Oliver. I was so impacted. I was mad at our Las Vegas staff because I didn't remind myself to be here every Wednesday, but I'm going to just make sure it's on my calendar because I just faulted our local UPF chapter for not making sure we're on the call every morning. So she's on her game now. I just wanted to bring up that we're doing a lot of talking about what to do about and for other people that's not us. You know, what are we going to do about those people? Because they are having challenges, those people. And so I was brought into this initiative because of retired U.S. military general Arnold Gordon Bray. He's a strategic consultant to HUD. He was asked to suggest to HUD how to end violent crime in public housing. And he has a system that he's wanting to deploy in 127 disadvantaged cities across America. And I was asked to be part of the Las Vegas team. Is a big challenge for me because I had to understand what General Bray was proposing for HUD to do in its public housing complexes that were experiencing so much violent crime. And he has a system, he has a strategy to put in place. It's been tested coming out of Los Angeles, and they've asked us to consider how the clergy can help deploy this process throughout America. But it's important for clergy to understand what their role would be, because General Bray believes that the best people to solve a crisis are the people who are in crisis. So this process is to empower those people that are living in public housing to change their own conditions. And so instead of having us come and do for them, we would empower people to do for self. The basis of the process is eradicating poverty and miseducation or uneducation, which they believe are the two most driving factors to crime or criminal behavior that's affecting our particular neighborhood is poverty and bad education. So how do we change the economic status of these people, or how do they change their own economic status, and how do they become better educated, is to give them the tools that they need to do it themselves. Because we have failed this population of people, and we shouldn't keep doing for them. We talk about programs, we need a better program. So what we've done is we've programmed this group of people so much, they need really to be deprogrammed or unprogrammed. And so if we could learn about the housing of urban development, they have Envision centers. If we attach ourselves to Envision centers and see how we as clergy can help move along this virtual community action planning. They have a process for all inner cities to plan their own future by getting a computer into every home with internet, by getting, hopefully we can bring in family values education to this population to teach them the value of purity and abstinence, fidelity, and marriage. That's kind of programming that the churches have seemed to have left out. So, but these people, when I say these people, these are friends, my next door neighbors, they know what they want. They want the same thing as everybody else, but they want to be able to do for self. They want to build their own garden instead of having someone that come in and plant for them. So it's just a matter of turning our attention to the people who are suffering and asking them, what can we do to help you versus this is what we were planning to do for you. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you for having me. I'm joining with the God Squad because they've got ample resources. If we have programs, just come for, you know, we can get I believe we're going to be successful this year gaining resources through this National Clergy Conference on Nonviolence. Are you familiar with them, Reverend Oliver? Called the God Squad?
The God Squad, no. That would be great to, connect with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Let me know, Catherine. That would be excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just excited because I just connected with them finally yesterday.
Okay.
We're trying to put together different clergy coalitions, but this is a national coalition of clergy interfaith that's already funded, well funded, and they're asking us, what do we need for these communities? So we have a resource, a need. Now we just got to put it all together.
Yeah, so it would be nice if one of those clergies can come on and share how they're doing that.
I will share the information with you right away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. We're coming to the close, but of course, Dr.
Let's say just one more thing.
Anybody else? Want
Thank
to
you.
closing remarks? Go ahead.
Thank you, Sister Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And
And
I
I didn't
just
realize that was you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, Mama Joy. Um, and I'm sitting here and it's funny because every week I get this burst of energy because the engagement is so pure. We have the heart to help. That is our heart consciousness. But I want to say this. I worked for public health for 19 years, and in that process I worked with one program. I worked with many programs, but one program was called Healthy Families of America. And the best thing we could do for those families was go in, work with them, and allow them to become self-sufficient. We were partners. They made their goals. We talked about action plans, and then we executed the plan. So to make people, to bring people to a place where they could be self-sufficient is the best thing that we could do for anyone. The worst thing we could do for anyone is have a two-parent toxic environment. There's 32% of white homes that are single parents. So we talk about the urban community, but we don't always talk about the Caucasian community. But that's a 32% single family population. The worst thing we could do is encourage a two-parent home that has a toxic environment. And I use this analogy. A house could be on fire, but we know that it's the smoke that kills people. Carbon monoxide you cannot see. You raise children in these toxic environments. That's why we have these mass shooters going into the schools, going into the malls. They're in a toxic environment in a two-parent home. In that process, what we want to do, we want to empower parents, whether they're single parents, whether it's a single parent home or whether it's a dual parent home. We want to give them the tools that's needed to be loving, caring, compassion, successful. But what we don't want is to create or lend help to an environment unless it's removing them from the smoke, because smoke kills. The house might go up in flames, but if you're not overtaken by smoke, you can get out. So when we talk about toxic environments in these dual two-parent homes, that's a conversation in itself. So the goal, I think the goal is to save all people in all environments. It's like you said, Reverend Oliver, each community have their own lack or needs or whatever that is, but we can no longer put it on the welfare system, because the welfare system has changed. Simply because you have a baby, that doesn't mean you get more money. Okay, they're providing single parents or even dual parents with the tools that they need to be able to become self-sufficient. So what we witnessed in the 70s, in the 80s, Mr. Welfare, keep my man away or keep my daddy away or whatever it is, that's no longer happening. We're in a new millennium. So when we talk about the welfare system is helping all people. Again, I worked it with diverse populations, and it wasn't not one ethnic group that wasn't receiving.
Checking. Are you okay?
Check. You got me saying checking, Donna. Some type of assistance from the government. So we can't isolate this issue to say that it's one population, because it's affecting America. When we get away from true family values, I love true family values. I have shared it with everyone that I've come in contact with. And then that's the only sense where we need to get back to the basis of what family is, what community is, and what our city, our state, and our nations are supposed to look like. Okay, thank you so much for allowing me to have that moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace and blessings.
Yes, thank you. You're so correct. Family is I think we don't fight enough for what family really means. We have a lot of people in the religious community are compromising, and they are also rationalizing why it's okay, to dip a little bit. You know what I mean? So those type of things need to be addressed, as I had said to Reverend Jesse Jackson, because they were promoting something on a dais. This is like 2012, and it really unnerved me, because it's like same-sex marriage, all that kind of thing. It was a dialogue, and I saw the clever way they were, compromising and being a little subversive, and that was building on the emotions of the people and the Christian people in there. Jesus loves everybody.
Yes.
But oh my God, yes, Jesus loves everybody. So I saw the underhand. So I went up to the podium and I said this to Jesse Jackson. I said, I have two questions for you. He said, okay. And one, I just asked him, did he remember his mentor? I thought his name was Martin Luther King. He set the prime example. He says, okay. And he put his head down because they were mocking other people who stood up for family values.
Wow.
Up on that dais, and it was a panel discussion. And so I asked him a last question. He said, what's your second question? And I emphasized Reverend Jesse Jackson. Is there any intrinsic and indelible truths inculcated within the Bible?
Wow.
And that's all I wanted to say to him. He put his head down, asked me, and I walked away, and a theologian said, don't worry, walk away, come back. And then I walked away. I don't have anything else to say. You see what I mean? You know that you're compromising somewhere. So I just want to ask you a very simple question. As a reverend, are there some indelible truths that are intrinsic within the Bible? And I walked away. And you can hear the whole place just shut up, right? And I walk away. So that's my point, is even our religious community is compromised. You see? So you can't even mention family too much anymore.
Reverend Oliver, I wanted to let you know that I feel that it is the African diaspora members in our movement. I believe we have to make this our personal responsibility. And my initiative was to actually not challenge, but encourage African Americans in the unification movement to unify around this topic. Because, the Japanese come together, the Koreans come together, the Hispanics come together. But I believe African Americans and the unification movement have a special mission to handle this particular challenge in our communities, because violence of this type is more prevalent in our communities. Gun violence takes more toll in our communities. So I thought if the African Americans and the unification movement could just unite around this particular topic, we could really make a big difference, because everyone's trying to do this for us but us. And I know you've been here every week, but if we could get the rest of the members in the movement to unite with you around your nonviolence initiative and take this show on the road, so we can start to really get true family values education in every public housing division in America. Because the government just wants to tear them down, disperse the people, and scatter them around. But we can get into public housing if we unite as African American members, not to say that we don't need the support of all members, but make it our mission, our providential mission, to end violence in public housing. Nothing can stop us. But we have to move out as people who are already knowledgeable about how it's done. We know how to do it. We're the only ones really that are uniquely qualified in America to talk this language and stand on it. Because we're tried and true, and we're living it every day.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very powerful statement. It has some validity to it. And yes, we are the unshakable voice, alternative voice. It can't shake us. Some people are shaken, but you can't shake us. And it's from what we have learned through the true family values, and Mother and Father Moon have caused us to make a very, I don't know if Mama Joy, I'm not calling you, but you said something that I thought was in conjunction with what our dear sister Catherine said, and everyone was saying as we come to a close. You said you appreciate Pamela Johnson, and then all the others that are the central personages in her group. They never left the community. So what they did, they decided to make a stance. That's a powerful statement.
Yes.
We're going to make a stance, you see? And that is very, very powerful. Will we not see God when we make that stance? Will God be able to speak to his children? But if his children don't hear his voice, then, it's a vicious cycle. And I appreciate what you just said, Doctor, my dear sister, Catherine Duncan. And I just appreciate all of you guys. I think it's been we're at 3:15, normally at 3, but I decided we'd go over because I thought we had Catherine said a God team. I thought we had a very powerful God team here.
God squad, yeah.
Harry, we have Franklin, we have my dear sister, Dr. Alexander, Mama Joy, and everyone has been on, and people have said some wonderful things in the chat. Our dear sister Angela, and let me make sure she can't come on, but she always makes some very powerful statements as well via the chat. But I want to thank all of you. I want to put out the call too, and I want to remind you of the conference that we will have, which will be after the elections. I think it would be good to have it then, and it will be Stopping the Violence, Unfolding Best Practices. And we have unfolded a lot of best practices out there, like Pamela Johnson, and also. Anyway, want to thank everybody for coming on. Everyone has done a great job. Dr. Alexander, I forgot to ask you about your trip to where. we have to
soon, very soon.
Yeah. She went to Dubai. I'll say it, and that was a great trip. I know.
Yeah. Well, I'm on my way. I haven't went yet. I don't leave.
Oh, you didn't go?
Yeah, I don't leave until the 31st. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So
yeah,
the anticipation.
28th. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I'll catch you when you get back. Anyway, November thing. Everyone, thank you so much. I want to put out the last call. If you have someone that could come on, please let me know or let Nadia know, and we can etch them in our calendar. Thank you very much.